Welcome to the Great Loop Aboard the Perch. I'm Kim Russo with America's Great Loop Cruisers Association. Today we're going from Fenelon Falls to Orillia. It's going to be a pretty long day of cruising, but there's some really neat stuff to show you in between, including 6 or 7 locks we'll be going through. So we started off the day leaving Fenelon Falls. We were above the lock already, so we did not have to wait for the lock to open. You can see there's some concrete there, which is just below the surface, and we continued on, headed for the first lock, which would be the Rosedale Lock. That opens at 9 a.m., so we kind of timed ourselves to arrive there shortly before 9. Those are the boats already waiting at the Rosedale Lock, and sure enough, as the lock opened, we were able to lock through and continue on our way. We, at that point, are now in Balsam Lake, and that includes the highest point on the Trent-Severn. So the subsequent locks, we will be locking down where we've been going up ever since we entered the Trent-Severn. So that'll be a pretty nice change of pace and something different. You can see we're kind of spinning around there waiting. This is an area where you need to call a sécurité before you enter. It's a very narrow area, and you do not want to be coming through there at the same time as another big boat. That's the attention sign there. So thankfully we knew to do that. We waited. We even spoke with the next lock, and they told us what boats they had released, and there were a few big boats coming our way. So we kind of hung back and waited for them to clear that channel before we headed in with about 2 or 3 other looper boats we were traveling with. Here's a pretty good view of how narrow this channel actually is, and you can kind of see pretty well there the rock ledge on the side, but in case you can't see it well enough there, here is a better look just off the starboard side of the boat. So pretty unforgiving, and that's why you don't want to be meeting another boat that's, in the 40 or 50 foot range. There's us passing a pontoon boat. That video is speeded up a little bit. We're not actually traveling this fast, but the interest of time on the video, we wanted to show you that. So just continuing on. Beautiful cruising, lovely areas as we have seen throughout most of the Trent-Severn. And then we hit another narrow stretch, and there was another boat that we had to pass in there. Again, a small boat. And as you finish up those narrow stretches, you will arrive at the Kirkfield Lock. This is another lift lock, and this time we are going down. This is the first lock where we're heading down. So those are the boats we're loaded in, and we are heading downward in this video. Kirkfield is not as well known for whatever reason as the Peterborough Lift Lock. The principle behind it is actually the same. The difference is that the Peterborough Lift Lock came first. It is concrete, where this one is made of steel. And so I guess some feel it lacks the character of the Peterborough Lift Lock. But this one also operates on the same hydraulic principle, that they're counterbalanced, and the top one is made heavier with a little bit of extra water, forcing it down, which then through a cross pipe forces the other chamber up. This one also locks boats through in both directions at the same time. And like I said, came after Peterborough. It was actually the same engineer who designed the lift lock, and this one came a few years later. So at this point we're reaching the bottom of the lock, and momentarily that gate will begin to open, and we will continue on our way. After we locked through at Kirkfield, I had a previously scheduled Zoom meeting, so I was inside the boat and Michael was continuing to drive, and I missed going through the hole in the wall, but Michael was good enough to get some video for us. The hole in the wall is the oldest concrete arched bridge in Canada. It was built in 1905. Allows for some beautiful pictures, and it's certainly a unique bridge to be going under, whether you're on the Trent-Severn or just about anywhere else. Continuing on, another swing bridge shortly thereafter to cross, and now as we get closer to Orillia, there are a series of locks that are pretty close together. So we'll be going through Bolsover, Talbot, Portage, Torah, and finally Gamesbridge will be the final lock of the day. So you can see how in the track the boat is kind of stopping and starting on a pretty regular basis as we go through these locks. And there is the hand crank being turned to let some water either in or out of that lock, depending on what point in the locking through that was happening. And there are the boats moving on out of that lock and on to the next one. You can see another kind of narrowish passage here. The channel here is another pretty skinny area here on the Trent-Severn. And as we finish up this skinny area, we're going to be approaching Lake Simcoe, which is kind of another milestone. There's another lock gate opening with the perch inside the lock. You can see as the afternoon goes on, the wind is picking up from that flag there at this lock. And this is kind of showing the last swing bridge as you're heading on out towards Lake Simcoe. Lake Simcoe can get pretty rough. It's a shallow lake and the waves can be substantial. In fact, there's this caution sign there that's telling you that it can be dangerous and to check the local latest forecast. So we headed out onto Lake Simcoe. The forecast was fine for crossing the lake that day. It was actually a beautiful crossing, and we'll show you some of the video here of the lake itself. A little bit of chop perhaps, but nothing that was uncomfortable, so it was actually a good day to be on the water. And we are approaching Orillia at this point as we make that turn slightly to starboard. We come in through the inlet there. You can see the sun welcoming us to Orillia. And one of the things striking about this channel here is how clear the water was. You could see straight down to the bottom. You could see weeds, logs, things like that. And we pulled into the port of Orillia, an AGLCA sponsor marina, which is really a top-notch facility. You can see the beautiful opening there. It is well protected, and it is a short walk into all of the shops and restaurants and other things in Orillia. So we'll be doing a Great Loop lifestyle video on that shortly. In the meantime, here is our Nebo log for the day. We had about 7 hours of time moving on the boat, went about 40 miles. We averaged 6 knots and had a maximum of 10 knots. There again is our track for the day. So you can see we started out bright and early, went through 7 locks on the way, and ended up at Orillia by the end of the day. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with our next leg soon.